Hello, everyone. Welcome down to Apter's Alley and another edition of the Apter Chat. The gentleman that you're seeing on screen right now is beside a dear friend. He's an author. He's done so many things, and he actually has written and continues periodically to write for WWE Magazine. And he's got a book out that I can't, oh, wrong book, sorry.
Wrong book.
I always plug in my book, cheap plug.
Yeah.
He's got this great book out, Too Sweet, and it's all about the independent wrestling revolution. And there's so much to talk about. But before we get to your book, which is the reason I wanted you on here, but I'm going to ambush you.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. So you worked for, and you still do periodically.
Well, I haven't worked for them in a few years, but the
no, but your name is
well, the relationship is open. I have a good rapport with WWE.
Right. I mean, you were also involved beside with WWE Magazine back then with the encyclopedias. I mean,
yes, I co-wrote the 3rd edition, and you of all people told me that my name is also in the 4th edition.
It is. It is. It is. Brian Shields put some quotes for me in, I think, on one of those editions. I don't remember which one it was, but so because of your relationship with the WWE, and I know you talk to the talent and you know everybody, and I know you keep up with this. You watched Monday Night Raw.
I
the
did.
Night that Mustafa Ali shocked the world and joined. I don't know if he joined or
no, he's now the head.
Showed
he is the head. He is the brains behind Retribution.
Yeah, well, I was trying to look for the words, not joined Retribution, but
no, he revealed himself.
Yeah,
not unlike the way Brody Lee revealed himself as the head of the Dark Order.
Absolutely, absolutely, which was pretty shocking. But I have to admit that what we saw with Mustafa Ali was, to me, it was like, what? How did you view this?
Well, you know, my first instinct was to feel joyful for Mustafa Ali. I think he's a great athlete.
Yeah.
I think he's very charismatic. And I also love his personal story.
Yeah.
He's a former police officer, as you know. He's been outspoken about Black Lives Matter. So he is the embodiment of both sides of the issue. He is pro-law enforcement and he is pro-Black Lives Matter. He believes in police reform, but he doesn't bash the police. So, you know, philosophically, I really like the guy.
Yeah, but why was he behind this whole thing? I mean, this was a group of rebels.
A group of rebels. Well, Mustafa Ali has been on social media complaining that he wasn't receiving the airtime he deserved. I wasn't quite sure if this was storyline or not. We have seen others complain like that, like FTR and Miro, who have now departed from the company.
Yeah.
You know, and I still don't know, because I don't have friends that deep inside, if this was all, you know, an elaborate setup for him to reveal himself as the head of Retribution. I'm not even sure the concept of Retribution had been conceived yet when he was writing a lot of these things.
Yeah.
My only fear, and I hope it's an unfounded fear, is that because of his ethnicity, that the company stays above using his Muslim background to turn him into some kind of, you know, insidious figure based on that. He can be an insidious figure based on his ability to manipulate people and be crafty and scheme. That's fine. Yeah. I just hope that, you know, the fact that he is Muslim American is incidental in all of this.
Yeah.
And, you know, I would hope that WWE, like much of the rest of society, has evolved past that, and we can just appreciate Mustafa Ali for the talent he is.
Yeah, he is a great talent. And we also saw on the same episode of Monday Night Raw We saw Ricochet being really brutalized by the Hurt Business. Do you think, and by the way, I have an idea for them. The idea is that they make T-shirts for their opponents for when they come into the ring called Getting Hurt Business, because they get
Which is
hurt.
not a bad idea.
Yeah, yeah.
Although I don't think the opponents will wear those shirts.
I don't either. But I keep getting this feeling that after last night, even though he's acting like he's not going to do this, that Ricochet may wind up joining the Hurt Business. What do you think?
Well, certainly I was not in the writing room, so I don't have privy to any kind of inside information. The Hurt Business has been behaving like a street gang, and street gangs traditionally beat people down until they join. Certainly they have seemed to have an inordinate amount of fixation on Ricochet.
Yeah.
Ricochet, like the aforementioned Mustafa Ali, is a great talent. People who watched him on the Indies hold him in, I think, higher regard than even WWE fans do, because they saw him really as a A-list headliner. If it puts Ricochet on a higher plane in the WWE pecking order, great. If he, finds some interesting allies and goes after the Hurt Business, that's good too. I hope that he's not just being, fodder for the Hurt Business to advance over his shattered carcass.
One thing I have to bring out to our after chatters out there, as you notice, I'm doing this whole thing in kayfabe style, and Keith is on the borderline of the kayfabe versus the writing part of this, but that's great.
Yeah, right. And it's a fine line.
I like.
You don't want to give the magic away.
I know.
And like yourself, I have spent time with people who are very protective of their character, and I certainly wouldn't want
So
to.
wait. Let me cut in on that. Your book.
Yes.
So let's talk about some of these.
Sweet Inside the Indie Wrestling Revolution. It's available on Amazon. I did a book signing at the Wrestling Universe in Queens, New York, this past weekend, and the book sold out in 34 minutes.
That's great. That's great.
As of yesterday, the community bookstore in Park Slope, Brooklyn, had 2 copies left, but I am hoping that after I posted that on social media, there are 0 copies left.
Well, I'm hoping it's right next to mine then, so we can help each other.
Well, yours sold out 5 years ago.
Here's my question. So in your book, the people that you talked to when we were talking about protecting their characters, who were some of the people that you met, some of the wrestlers that you met that were really focused in on protecting their characters?
I mentioned it in the book. Orange Cassidy was very focused on protecting his character. And, I met him all over the country. I was, following him around backstage. We were in Vegas, we were in Jersey, we were in LA, and I emailed him. We were in Philly, and he emailed me back, but he wouldn't break character.
Right.
And eventually I said, okay, you're very protective of your character, and I respect that. And so I'm going to just acknowledge that I chased you around for the better part of a year, and you would never come out of character. And, on the record, at least, you were never anyone but Orange Cassidy. And he said, okay, that's good. Then, when he began his feud with Chris Jericho, I saw he did an interview with ESPN that was mildly out of character. And I'm like, oh man, if I could have.
How could he do that to you?
Yeah, how could he do? But he didn't quite go on, reveal everything.
Yeah.
So, I wasn't able to get that out of him. And
one of the best interviews that I have done in years was with him at the old ECW, the 2300 Arena in Philadelphia, where every answer was, yeah, no, well, maybe. So he was, yeah, stayed in character the whole time.
It's a lot to maintain. And, I've watched him at indie shows standing at the gimmick table, and the other guys, whether they're fan favorites or they're villains, they're interacting with their fans and conversing with them and joking with them. And Orange Cassidy is there with his hands in his pockets and his sunglasses on, looking off into the distance somewhere.
Why did you write this book? What made you do this?
I've told this story a bunch of times.
Well, tell it again.
I was at WrestleMania 34 in New Orleans, and when I walked around, I saw a lot of Bullet Club shirts. Yeah. And I thought, that's interesting, even though there are dozens of indie shows now every time there's a WrestleMania weekend. WWE is responsible for bringing everyone to this grand party. And I don't remember NWO shirts being worn on WrestleMania weekend. Yeah. There really seems to be a phenomena here. And I spoke to Michael Holmes, who the executive editor at ECW Press. And ECW, incidentally, stands for Essays on Canadian Writing, not Extreme Championship Wrestling. But, and he was in New Orleans that weekend as well and noticed the same thing. And I said, I think it's time. I think we can do a book on indie wrestling, and I think there's enough of a market for it.
That's great.
And he said, let me think about it. And then he sent me a contract, and then we, spoke about money a little bit. And then I said, I'll take it.
Here it is. Were there any obstacles in your way with any of the promoters or the talent of the Indies?
The Indies have changed. So you don't have, sure, there are still guys on the fringes like there always were. But I'd say people who are using the top indie talent now, they're not the same kind of carny figures that you saw back in the old days.
Yeah.
That will suddenly spring on you and start accusing you of, atrocities that you couldn't even imagine. So by and large, the promoters were extremely welcoming. And I was surprised and gratified that Excalibur, who's a co-owner of Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, which, most people regard as the #1 indie promotion in terms of match quality on earth, was very open to me. He was a hard guy to pin down, but when we finally spoke, nothing was off limits. And I was very grateful because, every top indie star in the world has passed through that promotion. And
Absolutely.
Some guys have, it's called the PWG clause baked into their contracts that, they'll sign with, say, Ring of Honor on the condition that they can still perform in PWG.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, all that, what you're talking about, and so much more, and about the way AEW was originally formed when we were all at All In, and all the indie stars that came together. I don't want you to give away too much, because I want all my after chatters to go out and get Too Sweet. Yeah.
Inside the indie wrestling.
Where can people find you on social media?
They can find me pretty easily on social media.
Where are you?
You're holding up the book, so you see the spelling of my name over there, Keith Elliot Greenberg. You type that name into Facebook or Instagram. You can reach out to me that way, or I'm at Keith E. Greenberg on Twitter. And I respond to a lot of, feedback. If people read the book and they have questions, I'm very happy to speak with them. And in fact, I'm writing I'm writing a sequel right now. It was going to be Wrestling in the Year 2020, which everyone anticipated would be the best year to be a wrestling fan in a generation because of the Wednesday night wars.
Yeah.
Now it's turning into a book on wrestling in the age of the coronavirus.
Wow.
you know, people have given me feedback on things they liked about my book and things they would have liked to have seen more in the book. And I'm taking that very seriously and working on filling some of those voids in the next book.
All right. Well, everything you have done for the time I've known you has always been top shelf. Everything.
Thank you, my friend.
And um, hopefully we'll be able to get you down eventually here to Aptors Alley in person.
Yes.
Once this COVID mess is over. And before
According to the president, it should be over within a day or so.
I'm not going there. Before I let you go, just going back, rewinding back. Do you remember your first indie show you ever went to and what your impression was of that?
You know, I've been going to wrestling for so long.
Yeah.
There's so many shows I've been to. You know, I've
know
been
the
to,
feeling.
yeah, I remember, and you were probably there. And I've been to many, many indie shows before this, but I remember going to the Ridgewood Grove and seeing a Pro Wrestling USA show.
In Queens.
In Queens, yeah.
Or Brooklyn. Was that Brooklyn?
Well, it was Ridgewood. Ridgewood was then part of Queens and Brooklyn.
I know, I went to high school there, Grover Cleveland High School.
Right, which is in Queens.
Yeah.
But then there was Ridgewood, Brooklyn, which is now just called Bushwick.
Right.
No one ever refers to Ridgewood, Brooklyn anymore. But it was right on the border. And I remember seeing Sergeant Slaughter there, and I think the Road Warriors were there too. And Professor Elliot, of blessed memory, was the ring announcer. And, it was a Vern Gagne show. Technically, it wasn't an indie show, but it felt very indie. They didn't bring the ring announcer with them. So the most demented wrestling fan, who'd ever lived up into that period was recruited, the proverbial fan out of the stands. We had Professor Elliot in the ring.
Hey, one more thing before we leave. I had mentioned to you that behind me is this Hulk Hogan figure, and he's holding the headband that he gave me the night he won the title, the WWF title. You said in one of our conversations prior to this that you had a story about the Iron Sheik you wanted to tell us.
Yes, just as you were with Hulk Hogan on the night he won the title from the Iron Sheik, exactly 1 month earlier, I was with the Iron Sheik on the night that he won the championship from Bob Backlund.
Bob Backlund.
And everybody, when I tell them this, they say, oh, the Iron Sheik, the night he won the title, he must have been going crazy. And in fact, no, he was with his wife and Keiji Nakayama, the Japanese photographer, and I was writing a wrestling column at the time for the Staten Island Advance. Wow. And the two of us went into his room, and it was just Cage and, Carol, the Iron Sheik's wife, and I. And he was sitting there. He was very subdued, and he was talking about his amateur background, and he was talking about, what it meant to him to be given this honor. And he wasn't cursing, and he wasn't calling Bob Backlund howdy doody. He was very reverential when he spoke about Bob Backlund. And, that's a side of the Iron Sheik that I've seen many times. And even though I know he got lost in his gimmick, I wish that more fans were familiar with that side of him, because I think, you have to look at the entire person.
Yeah. He's very sweet. He hates to be
very sweet guy.
He is too sweet.
Too sweet.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much for being down here in Aptors Alley. And you know how we always end the segment. Would you mind pointing out to the camera? We'll see you. We'll see you. Point out to the camera.
Mm-hmm. We'll see you next time. We'll see
you eventually.
We'll see you
at the matches.
We'll see you at the matches.
Eventually. Well, after with right. Keith Greenberg. And we will see you at the matches eventually. Get the book. It's too sweet.